that everything about davening is exact, and every time you see another custom doing something a little different than you, you should also know there's reasons for both, and it's a geschmack to learn what the halachas are behind it. So today, I want to concentrate on the Nisim of Purim. We're going to take the simple words of Nisim that we say in Purim, and see there's not going to be so many halachas parts on the nusach of the Nisim. There's halachas parts of the dinim of the Nisim, but not about the wording. And Trey will try to translate it and see what kind of mefarshim, how it will enhance our saying this Nisim on Purim. So our nusach is, I don't know if everybody has the same nusach, Nisim, Vala Porkam, Vala Gvurois, Vala Chois, Vala Neflois. On Chanukah, a lot of other nusachos say Milchamis. I don't know if they say on Purim they say Milchamis. Some nusachos also have Milchamis, but we don't have the nusach Milchama. Not what?
Yes, you said Al Hanisim.
Ve'al Hanisim. Thank you. Thank you. While somebody's listening, why is the veil? Why is the veil? You don't start a conversation and it's because it continues what you said in Maidim. Al Nisacha Shabachol Yemiwanu.
Some nusachos that do say Al.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to make sure my siddur is printed correctly.
There's some nusachos I can say Al because it goes Al Nisacha Shabachol Yemiwanu. So you say you roll into the ve'al and also for the specific nisim that take.
Chabad says
Yeah. Okay. So, but Milchamis, I know Chanukah, most of the other Siddurim say Al Milchamis. The Alter Rebbe took out Al Milchamis for many reasons. One of the simplest reasons is that you don't, if you realize you're always thanking for good stuff. Al Nisim, Al Porkam, Al Verse, there's all good things that Hashem did to us. What would be the point to make a recognition of the war? The war is Alavaya could avoid. You could say the victory, but not Al Milchamis. That's one of Aim of Bechal is halacha that says Aim of Varcham Ala Klala. That's one of the reasons we don't. But over here, anyways, there wasn't really a machama. There wasn't really a machama as it was by the Yavanim. Over here, it was just they were allowed to kill us, and then the permission was taken away. So we went out on the offense instead of it wasn't a machama. So but ala nisim for the miracles, ala porkam. What is the porkam translated? Redemption. No. Al Gvores, the might, Al Choice, the victory, Al Neflois, the wonders, Shasisa Lavisainu, Bayam Mehaim Bizman Azel. Then
deliverance?
It could be. Then we start Bimei Mordechai ve'Esther B'Shushan Abira. In the lifetime of Mordechai and Esther in the capital city of Shushan. So let's talk about these first words, Bimei, Mordechai, ve'Esther. So Mordechai, the Gemara is a very famous Gemara in Masechta Chulin, Daf Kuf Lamed Tes Amud Beis. The Gemara says, Mordechai min atayra minayin. Where do we find a remez to Mordechai, or the story of Mordechai in the Chumash? And the Gemara says the famous answer, because by the Ketairis, the incense that they use for the Ketairis, one of them was the Mor Dror, Umitargaminon, and the Targum says a Mor Dror Mira Dachya. That's where you find a remez to Mordechai min HaTorah. So you can just imagine how many commentaries go on to speak about. Come on, what's the connection? Just because it was one of the Ketairis, what does that have to do to Mordechai and the story of Mordechai? So the Marsha and that Gemara explains the questions a little different. Not where do we find a remez for the Mordechai in the Torah. He says there are four people that you see that the Gemara doesn't ask this only about Mishkoach. Doesn't only ask this about Mordechai, asks it about four people. Esther, Mordechai, Moshe, and Haman. And Moshe is funny. And the Marsha explains these four people have really other names. Esther, we know, had a name called Hadassah. Mordechai had other names. Mordechai's name was Psachia. the Gemara says. Moshe had other names. Moshe's name is what the Bas Pare gave him. I actually saw a beautiful shot yesterday. I think it was with Chasam Sofer, the Chasam Sofer, about Moshe Rabbeinu. He said, why are we calling him Moshe? It's the name that Bas Pare gave. Why not the name that his parents gave him at his bris when he was born? And the Gemara says he had a lot of, the Medrash says he had many names. Toiv, Tuvia. Why are we calling? Okay, well, why are we calling him Moshe? So a beautiful thought is like this. The Gemara says that to be a Navi, you have to have certain qualifications. You have to be rich, you have to look good. And all the commentators try to figure out, what does that have to do to Nevuah? Nevuah is a spiritual plus. And you're saying that to get those benefits, you have to look good, you have to have money. Pooh! Okay, so let's put that aside. So, but one of the main qualifications for a Navi is he has to be humble. It has to be Anav. When you're rating humility, when you rate humility, another half an hour, huh? Yes, give the bagels. David, give her the bagels so I'll buy some time. I'll buy some time. I'll buy time. When you're rating humility, there's two types of humble people. Let's say two rich people. There's a rich man that was born not into a rich family, and he made it rich. He could be humble. And then there is a rich man that he was raised in the house of the palace. He always had everything in a gold platter, and he could also be humble. Which one of the two humble people are greater? So the Chasam Sofer says the one that was born poor and became rich, for him to be humble is it's special, but he knows what it feels like to not to have. So he understands why to be humble. But a guy who always grew up in the house of the palace and a prince, and yet be humble, that's special. So we stressed that about Moshe Rabbeinu from Kind Vaizuf. Moshe Rabbeinu was taken to Bas Pare, and he was there as a prince, and he was a king in Nineveh. All his life, he had everything what he wanted. And yet he was humble, so that's why we specifically stress Moshe. That's what the Chasam Sofer says, huh? King in Kush, right? Nineveh, Kush, whatever, Pari, I don't know. Well, he was king somewhere else. Anyway, so the Marsha explains this Gemara that the Gemara asks, these are four people who had other names. Esther's name was Hadassah, we call her Esther. Mordechai's name was Psachia, we call him Mordechai. Moshe's name was Tuvia, we call him Moshe. Haman's name, what was Haman? Haman, says the Marsha, seems to be B'chlal Tzgar, a Persian name. Obviously, he wasn't upset. Why do we? Because the Megillah was written through Persians, and that's why we don't mention any Abish's name in there. So the question is, why did we zero in calling them by these names? So the Marsha goes on to explain like this. A Haman, says the Marsha. Haman, the Gemara asks, Haman min ha-Torah min ayin, hamin ha'etz hazois. The story of the Eitz Hadas. What's the connection between the two? So the Marsha explains, Haman is a descendant from Esav and Amalek, and their power comes. There are a Yerusha from the Nachash that did this to Hamin ha'etz hazois, telling to Chava. That's why Haman has his power. And the Medrash goes on to say, Haman and the Nachash both did the same wrong thing. They both were angry, and they both were jealous of something that didn't belong to them. And over Chain, they both fell the same way. So that's the comparison. That's why we call him Haman, because we want to tell you where the source of his problem comes from. Why are we stressing Haman, even though he had other names? Because Hamin ha'etz hazois. It's all coming from the Hamin ha'etz hazois. Esther, the Gemara asks, Esther min ha-Torah min ayin, and the Gemara says, because the pasuk says, and every breastful knows this pasuk, v'anoichi haster aster pani b'yemahu. Hashem says, God forbid, when things don't go good, you should know, I'm concealing, I will hide my face, you won't feel my presence, and that's why I think, because of whatever reason, It doesn't say I'm going away. It doesn't say I'm not there. It says I will conceal which is Haster Aster. So that's why she is called Esther, even though she had other names. Her name was Hadassah, because that period of time in Yiddishkeit, the Eibishter removed himself, Kvayachol. The Eibishter was concealed, and that's why. And it was as a reaction to how the Yidden behaved, that they didn't do their do work in Amunas Hashem. They were hooked onto Achashverosh and all his glory as if he's the survivor. So Anoichi Aster Aster, I remove myself, I conceal myself. Anoichi, the Anoichi Hashem Elekecha, for Rahman al-San, the Yidden put their faith in something else. Hashem says, I'm backing out. Anoichi, and that's what happened back then. All right, that's how the Maharsha explains the word, why we call them by these names. There is another beautiful shot I once read. Mordechai, the Gemara says now, is because of the Ketores had one of the spices in the Ketores, Mordechai, yippee. What's the connection? She says there is a question in halacha. This smelly thing, this perfume, Mordechai, that they use for the Ketores, is a problem in halacha. You know where they make that smell? It comes from a zeyas chaya. It comes from the steam. They boil up a chaya tmeah, sweat, the steam of a chaya tmeah. I don't know exactly what chaya it was, and that steam that comes out of it creates this beautiful smell. You're going to use ketores? You're going to use something that's made from a chaya tmeah? It goes from here to here. How does that work? How was the Mordechai allowed to be used? This is what the Mefarshim ask. The Rambam says that's what Mordechai is. How were they able to use that for the Beis Hamikdash, for the Ketores? And the answer is that sometimes the pasuk says, "Mi yitain tar mitame," which tar, pure thing, comes from a tameh. And the Medrash says, you know who that is? Mordechai. Mordechai, he's a descendant from Shimi. And Shimi was a troublemaker in the history. So Mordechai worked on himself and became who he was. That's a tahar that comes from Tameh. So that's the similarity to the scent that's used for the Ketores, that nobody should ever give up and say, oh, look what I fell into. Look what kind of surrounding. Look what kind of family. Everybody has hope. And Mordechai made himself to become who he is, despite the fact that he came from Shimi. And that's exactly what the Mordechai, the Ketores teaches us. You could come from a Chaya Tameya, but you have the potential to be able to be used to the Ketores. To the Ketores.
I also heard it's like a Babylonian god name, Marduk.
All right.
And it's like
Wasn't Shimi the one who cursed David?
Yes.
So wasn't that like 500 years earlier?
But he comes. So who's who?
Mordechai and Ben Yair.
I don't know. I didn't check. I didn't check up. The Gemara actually says good things why he's called Shimi. Shimi.
Okay. Is it the same Shimi?
I don't know. All right, that's about Mordechai. Mordechai min HaTorah Minayin, because of the Mordechai. Esther min HaTorah Minayin. So we just said that the question is, her name really was Hadassah. Why did she switch to Esther? Why was she called Hadassah? Why did they give her that name? So the Gemara says in Megillah, Daf Yud Gimel, because all tzaddikim are called Hadassah. They smell like roses. Hadassah is myrtle. A myrtle is beautiful. So the tzaddikim, everything they do is beautiful. And others say she was called Hadassah. And why was she switched to Esther? She was a very private person. You couldn't know everything about her wasn't open to the public. So Hester means concealed. Other opinion says she was original name was Hadassah. She became Hester. It's not we changed her name. The Goyim changed her name to Aster. Aster means like the Levana, like the moon. And in Yiddish, there's an expression, Shem vid Levana. She was so beautiful. So the Goyim changed the name. Wow, you're so beautiful. Hester, Aster is a beautiful thing. The Manas Halevi, incidentally, the Manas Halevi is one of the main svarim on Megillah. The Manas Halevi, this is, if you look in the introduction to the Manas Halevi, there's a halacha comes out of this. He writes, if you're looking, one whole line is on Haggadah, and another whole line is the Megillah. Anything I wrote about, I bought everything on sale about that. So Haggadah, okay. Anyways, so the Manas Halevi writes in his Haggadah that he wrote his pirush on the Megillah Sester. Why? He wrote his pirush as a gift, mishloach manas, for his father-in-law. That becomes a halacha. Do you have to actually give food, even though giving food is better? Because the purpose of mishloach manas is everybody should have a shikayach, hatzlacha, nesiyah tova, hatzlacha. Hey, keep up. All right. Yeah. By after Purim, right? So from there you learn halacha that not necessarily you have to give dafka food. Some say you give others, even though it's made for the Sudas Purim. But the Manas Halevi says, I wrote my sefer as Mishloach Manas for my share. So he writes a beautiful pshat. He says it could be that Mordechai changed her name from Hadassah to Esther, because Esther is a Persian name. Hadassah is a Hebrew word. He didn't want, Mordechai realized where we're going to need her in the different places to help us out. So he changed her name so it should fit in and people wouldn't know that she's a Yid. That's what the Manas Halevi says. The Rebbe writes in Lekutei Sichos Chelik Tezayin Amar 360, the Rebbe writes that a person has to know that even in the biggest Vafilu behastura shebetoicha hastura, the Rebbe, it's also the Lubavitch has this also. So the Rebbe writes that even the Yerida in the lowest Helen Vahester, even there's Hadassah, there's a rose. And that's the combination between the two. Okay. Okay, let's go weiter. I want to just, we don't have all the time. The Radvaz, in Shuvas Radvaz, Siman Reish Peidal, asks a question. When Mordechai realized that there's trouble going to happen, what made him go out for full force? Halachically, you can't put yourself in these positions of Sakanas Nefashis. Why didn't Mordechai just pick himself up and go somebody else? In the Nusach we say, and by the way, this Nusach is different than Chanukah. In Chanukah we say Bimei Matisho ben Yechika and Gadol. Doesn't say where it took place. Over here we say Bimei Mordechai Vester B'Shushan Abira. Why are we suddenly identifying the place where it is? So the Bnei Yissaschar says, why in Purim we identify it was B'Shushan Abira and Chanukah not? He says because of a halacha. What prayer do we say? Do we say in Chanukah? We don't say in Purim. Hallel. Purim, we don't say hallel. What's the difference? So there's another reason. The Gemara says that you don't say hallel on a nes of chutz la'aretz. You only say hallel on this and that took place in Eretz Yisrael. Not hallel. So,
Pesach happened in Mitzrayim.
Okay. So therefore, the Gemara says that's the difference between Chanukah and Purim, right? So when you're Gedaven on Purim, you're going to want to see, hey, what's going on? I'm not saying hello, Chanukah. So you say that it was B'mei Mordechai Esther because this took place in Shushan Abira. That's what the Bnei Yissaschar writes. The Chuvas Radvaz asks, why did Mordechai go into this big Sakanas Nefashis? Why didn't he just run away? He saw things are not going in. Leave Shushan Abira, go elsewhere.
Was everywhere, no?
One second, yeah. So the Eben Ezra answers that says that the Mordechai was from the Misharsei HaMelech, and because you were one of the king's servants, you can't disappear. You get disappeared. He was Mischai ben Avshay, but he doesn't like the answer, so he says, "Why did he ask permission for a sabbatical, a leave?" Mordechai realized something. He should have made a vayivrach. And he says like this: Ki Mordechai le'asik adatoi sheyishlach yodi b'chol Yisrael. Mordechai at that moment didn't think that it's gonna affect all the Jews, and Mordechai didn't realize that Achashverosh was actually going to let Haman kill all Jews on something stupid. I mean, it didn't make sense. He's going from this to this, and suddenly the Hashmi will. So therefore, Mordechai didn't realize how big the problem was originally. As the pasuk says, Mordechai yodas kol hashanasa. Oh, now Mordechai figured it out. From those words, it's mashma that when the story started, Mordechai didn't run away because he didn't realize it was a big, serious thing. And about why are you still here? I'm not worried about myself. About myself, I'm ready to go on Kiddush Hashem. He was all about the other people. So that's what the Evan Ezra says. Okay, right, go. Haman.
Isn't that problematic because it's in response to Mordechai?
So everybody asks, all the Mefarshim asks, how was Mordechai allowed to do that? How was Mordechai allowed to entice Haman to get so angry, and that will cause him to? The Mefarshim ask that question.
But isn't it from Shalosh Averos?
Huh?
Isn't it from Shalosh Averos?
Even though Shalosh Averos are not the Misa. The Gemara says Leiman is Chayv Shenem Shosel Kliya. The Gemara says Mishtachel Tzelem. That's only Yidden and Shushan, not the Chol. And then you don't get killed for that. The Gemara and the Mefarshim talk about that. Okay, let's go weiter. As Kol HaYehudim Minar V'Adzokim Taf V'Noshim B'Yom Echad. He wanted to kill all the Jews, young and old, male, female, all in one day. So everybody asks, why did he want to do it in one day? First of all, how was he planning to do it all in one day? It's impossible. He didn't have a nuclear bomb. What was he thinking? So you know that everybody knows that everybody will repeat to you the very jokey answer that's brought that the Gerech Chassidim say that when Haman wanted to do this to the Yidden, he actually knew that's going to be difficult to kill all the Jews. And he's trying to figure out, there's a very slight chance that the Yidden are going to do tshuva, and they're going to he's going to lose. So Haman said, I don't want that if it turns out to be a victory against me, it really to conquer the Jews will take a month, 3 months, or whatever. But if I lose, they're going to be celebrating for 3 months. No. He's ready to do it and go all in one day. At least the celebration should, if God forbid he loses, that's his famous Sachat Shavavart. But what's the Yom Echad? What is it that he insisted in Yom Echad? He was trying to fight fire with fire. He knows the success of the Jews is the unity of us being Echad. So he says, I'm going to do the same thing, kill them all, I'm going to turn it around. He was hoping, God forbid, that will happen. Obviously, we know that it got all turned around. When did this happen? B'shloisha asar l'chodesh neim asar, on the 13th day. On the 13th day of the 12th month. And the question is, the Avrud Raham asks, Haman, all the Mefarshim ask, why is the holiday called Purim? Who made the Pur? Who made the lottery? Haman. And it's all about the negative. We're calling it a Purim because he made a lottery. He made a lottery. We call him the Purim because we won the lottery. The lottery is something negative. So all of them, that's part of the Hester. That's part of the concealment. That's all set up in the Lechatchila that we should win. That's why we even named the holiday Purim. But why is it Purim, plural? Why? Because he made 2 lotteries. What were the 2 lotteries?
One for the month, one for the day.
Okay, so but it's strictness with the Avrud Raham. The Avrud Raham asks if Haman HaRasha made a lottery and he was happy it fell out. It says he was happy it fell out in Adar because he realized Moshe Rabbeinu died in Adar. Oh, it must be a bad month for the Jews. He didn't know that Moshe Rabbeinu also was born in Adar. Yeah. So if today, very good, thank you. Today's a controversial. If you should say Tachnan, the Nisim. Don't say Tachnan today. If it fell out to be an Adar, why did he wait? Why did he wait to Yud Gimel Adar to decide that's the day that he's going to do his job. And we turned it around. This was supposed to be the day that he was allowed to kill us, God forbid. And why didn't he start? Oh, I got permission. I'll start from the beginning of the day. So he says,
The beginning of the month.
the beginning of the month. Kivon shehipol pur v'yigil l'chodesh Adar. Since the pur came up, that he has permission in Adar. Lama hit him to not did gimel boy. Why did he wait till the 13th day? The Yesh Shloimar said that Avud Ram answers, "Lefishatakburdas ha'evel b'yom shvi." We know, God forbid, that a person mourns. He feels it most at the end of Shiva. So he wanted to do it on Yud Gimel. Because Yud Gimel is the end of Shiva of Moshe Rabbeinu or Zayin Adar. This is what the Avud Ram had.
Interesting. I was thinking yesterday that when you say that, what was the connection? Moshe Rabbeinu's birth was on Zayin Adar, so his birth would have been, which he was born Mahol, but it would have Tofas Dama would have been Purim.
Yeah. All right. So we all know the Gemara why he had rights. Why the Abba should give him the opportunity to scare us. Shloish Eser. What we start off? We started off. Kishamad Hamal Rasha Bikesh Lahashmid Lareg Labed Eskola Yehudim Minai Vadzokin Tafinoshim Be'emechad Bishloishas. This is all what he was planning. He was planning, and he was going to do it Nadar. Ushlolam Lavois, and he was also going to use all our spoils. This was all part of his plan. Va'ata b'rachamecha Arabim Baruch Hashem, God, with your great mercy, Hefarta Asatzasa, you broke his plan. V'kilkalta Smachshavta, and you ruined his thought. V'heshafta like Mulaya Barosha, and you smacked him on the face. V'tolu Oisev as Bonavalates. This is the end of the story. Yeah? So the Leiv Simcha says, what is this? Hafarta Asatzasa, you broke his plan. Kilkachta Shmachshavta, and his thought you ruined. What is the difference between Atzasai umachshava? So he says the machshavta, when we say you ruined his machshava, is Haman wanted to ruin our machshava. As we say, lahavir es roas Haman ha'agogi ve'es machshavta. The Haman had a dual plan, physically to kill us, and he also wanted to ruin the whole religion, the whole our way of thinking. So these are two separate plans that he have, and the Eibishter uprooted both. Pshat, the difference in Pshat between Eitzah and Machshava is brought in the pasuk in Iyov. Okay. Forget about that. So what you broke his plan, you ruined his thoughts, you smacked him back on the face. It says, Al Raishai, because Haman wanted to kill all the Jews in one day. And the Eibishter paid him back, Mida Keneged Mida, and on the same tree that he prepared for the Jews, Rachman al went to him. And the last thing it says, Allah Eitz. They died. He was hung on the tree. In Pirkei de Rabbi Lezer, it says like this. Funny story. Arba'im banim hayu laHaman. Haman had 40 children. Haman had 40 children, because 4 times the pasuk says Aseres b'nei Haman. So every time it says Aseres b'nei Haman, it's another 10. 10 of them were scribes for the king. 30 were scattered all around. As the pasuk says, Aseres b'nei Haman b'sha'ar b'dinais melech. So, and all of them were killed, but 10 of them were hung together with the father. That's what it says. V'tolu oisev es bonav ala eitz. In a medrash, it says that Haman and his 10 kids were all hung on one tree. How? And he splits it up, how it all happened. And that's why the minig is that when you say that Aseres b'nei Haman, you do it in the Shema Achas in one breath, because they're all killed together. So much so it became a halacha that because of that, you say that pasuk yourself. Why do you say the pasuk yourself? Why is this one of the few pasukim the chazan can't say and you hear it from him? The answer is I can hear the whole Megillah from a chazan, but there's a detail that I can't hear from the chazan. doing it in one breath. He's doing it in one breath, not me. That's why the Rogatchover says the Aseres Bnei Haman is one of those few psukim that we have to say out loud. Anyways,
One more question.
yeah.
Al ha'etz.
Yeah.
So Haman is from Eitz Adas.
Oh, very good. Very
Al
good.
ha'etz.
Very good.
Is that the Eitz Adas that he was Haman?
I don't know if the Eitz Adas are within Persia. Okay, anyways, we should have a Freilich and Purim, and obviously next Sunday will be under